Truth Unveiled here, and today I have some very interesting stuff to share with you today. It has to do with the so-called Trump and Clinton presidencies because we know better than that. But I found these articles to be very interesting and suspicious, and they tell a lot of very interesting things, and you're going to see just what I'm talking about. But I got this from the Boston Globe that came out a couple days ago on April 9th, actually, and it says the GOP must stop Trump. And then it goes on to say Donald J. Trump's vision for the future of our nation is as deeply disturbing as it is profoundly un-American. Now, the first question we need to think about is this another mental psyop? Of course, because those of us who are awoke know full well that Mr. Obama is staying right where he is. He's even joked about a third term. So it's no doubt that he's going to stay right in office where he is. So then why all the mental psyop is even the better question. But basically the article goes on to talk about in a so-called opinion piece of how someone thinks that, oh, if Trump were to be president, it'd be very bad. There'd be riots everywhere. It would not be good. I'm not even going to read this because it just doesn't even need to be read by now because those of us who are awoke, we know that all of this is just a big mental psyop. They want us to believe this stuff. However, what I will turn your attention to is something that's very interesting, and it's this right here. It's what they consider the front page of the Boston Globe, as you can see on Sunday, April 9th, 2017, and what it says, because some of this is very interesting and very suspicious indeed, and you need to see exactly what it's talking about and exactly what it says, because you're going to be very surprised and shocked about some of the things that this so-called article just so happens to be predicting. Now, the question we should always be thinking about is, why are they even have this? Why would they even put this out for the public to see? And why would they put it for another year later on? Are they getting ready for something? Do they know something we don't? You'll find that out and more soon to come. Like I said, the question you should be wondering is why? Why today and why at a time like this? Because we know full well that Mr. Obama's staying in office. It's all a big mental psyop. It's only a matter of time. So why would they even put this out to begin with? Not only that, but you start to notice some things. Like I said, nothing ever happens for a reason or a coincidence. You see that this was released on Sunday, April 9th, 2017, or at least it will be, according to them. Very interesting and suspicious indeed. That's a year later after this opinion piece came out on April 9th. Now, to the occult, April 9th is a very interesting day because why? It's the 99th day of the year for them, according to the occult, with 266 days left, just like when the 266th Pope came to America on the 266th secular day. No surprise there. Not only that, but if you look up the TV show called Arthur, the children's TV show, you will see that they have done an entire episode dedicated to April 9th. It's even called April 9th, and it just so happens to be the 10th episode of the 7th season. Oh, just like the 10th day of the 7th month, Yom Kippurim, Day of Atonement. Very interesting indeed, but let's move on. It says deportations to begin. Mr. Trump, or President Trump, calls for tripling of ICE force. Riots continue? Wow, just like the riots that we're seeing going on with Democracy Spring, and it even says in one of these that riots will go on for 3 weeks. Very interesting and suspicious indeed. I highly recommend you come here and check it out. Like I said, does this mean anything? Probably not. But what do the elite like to do? They like to tell us what they're going to do ahead of time. Now, will they do it on April 9th, 2017? Probably not. But will they do some of these things? Oh, of course they will. And like I said, when you start to see the mental psyop and the mental programming, then you start to understand just the bigger agenda. So for example, I'm going to go over some of these things with you and some things that I found very interesting and eerie about this. Like for example, over here where it says markets sink as trade war looms, and it says worldwide stocks plunged again Friday, completing the worst month on record as trade wars with both China and Mexico seem imminent. Very interesting and suspicious indeed. And why did I keep Friday highlighted? Because what if you watch X-Files, you'll even see that they're planning what? They're planning the collapse on a Friday. So why do they even mention Friday? Why does that date keep popping up everywhere? Oh, but that's not the only place Friday's mentioned in this article, because we see it here as well on this side where it says bank glitch halts border wall work. I've done a ton of videos about banking glitches and how you've been seeing banking glitches all over the place. And it even says construction on the new border wall with Mexico stopped suddenly on Friday, dealing a major setback to one of President Trump's key campaign promises after Mexico refused to pay. Wow, so why would they mention Friday there? Again, very interesting and suspicious indeed. I'm telling you, they don't just do these things and put this stuff out just for our entertainment, just for our information, just because they have nothing better to do. Of course, they're blending some truth to you with many lies. And what are the many lies? By saying, oh, Mr. Trump will be in office. They're giving these people these false illusions that, oh, it's going to be Trump. Oh, it's going to be Clinton. Oh, either one of them, either one of them. When we know better than that. Like I said, I'm not going to read all of this, but you can come here and check it out yourself. I will leave the link so you can see it. But what I thought was also interesting is this right here was the very front where it says curfews extended in multiple cities. What does that sound like to you? Martial law, curfews. They've already tested it in both France and Belgium. Now they're bringing it to America. Oh, that part is true. But it says, oh, President Trump, because that's what they want us to believe, has set in motion one of the most controversial campaign promises, calling on Congress to fund a massive deportation force by tripling the number of federal immigration and customs enforcement agents. So what this really is about, and what this article is in a nutshell, what it's summarizing is that how it says, oh, well, because due to all the so-called immigrants, well, now we have to cause a deportation and it's causing riots all over the place. And here's the solution to our cause problem, because we know exactly who's funding these so-called immigrants to begin with. We know exactly where it's coming from. Hint, hint, George Soros. Hint, hint, funding from the elite and the Jewish Zionists. Oh, but they don't want you to know that. Oh, the Illuminati agents, they're not telling you that, are they? Because what are they doing? They're smuggling them into America illegally through UPS planes and FedEx planes and DHS buses. But they don't want you to know that. Keep the secrets. Don't tell them that that's how they're funding illegal immigration to begin with. What? Problem, reaction, solution. They cause the problem, cause the reaction of, oh my gosh, there are all these refugees everywhere. Oh my goodness, where did these immigrants come from? We need to do something about this. And then the solution is, oh, I know, enforce curfew. That'll do it. Oh, rioting. Oh, we'll bring in the military for that. We know how to solve that. It's the same agenda every single day, every single time. But it's also interesting because it goes on to say economists estimated ICE would need more than 900,000 agents to complete the deportations in the next 2 years. Of course, that's what this says, but we know better than that. But it also talks about how they would, the scent of tear gas pervades Lafayette Square and the White House. Basically, what? The destruction of the White House, Washington, D.C. Your military and your government have already planned and evacuated Washington, D.C. and have made Denver the de facto capital of the New World Order. Oh, but that's supposed to be a secret. That's declassified information, isn't it? Oh, but let's keep going. It also talks about shutting down Harvard, MIT, as well as Kendall Square. The red line, it talks about shutting down Boston, basically. Very interesting. It talks about armed so-called ICE agents, talks about it in Santa Barbara County. Very interesting and suspicious indeed. They blend truth with lies. And going back over here, we see that Dow declines at record pace. So wow, in what, 3 weeks, we see that the Dow here declined 6,000 points or more. Is that what they're getting ready for? Is that what they're actually going to do? Now, will they do it on these dates? Probably not, but we always have to keep watching. I'm telling you, they're telling us everything what they're about to do. It's only going to get worse from here. Then they give us this continued convoluted story of, oh, ISIS, 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 more propaganda from ISIS, even though we know who's funding ISIS. But let's keep going. It says, we have a civilian-controlled military for a reason. U.S. soldiers refuse orders to kill ISIS families. Very interesting. And the article talks about how the military faces a crisis of good order and discipline, Pentagon officials said yesterday, after days of widespread unrest and the ranks over White House orders to kill relatives of ISIS militants. Do you see what they're trying to do? Do you see what that is? Problem, reaction, solution. When we know who funds ISIS to begin with, hint, hint, the Pentagon themselves, your government. Yes, correct. And it goes on to talk about how they're planning protests for this. Why all the protests and the riots? That's all this is talking about. What problem, reaction, solution? Enforced curfew, martial law. See how they blend some truth with a bunch of lies? Very interesting and suspicious indeed. It even says we have a civilian controlled military for a reason. Why keep bringing in the military? Martial law. Very interesting. And it says it even says a clash between the military and the White House has been brewing since the campaign when former CIA alphabet soup chief General Michael Hayden explicitly warned that American armed forces would refuse to act if Trump ordered an attack on terrorist families. Oh yeah, because there's real terrorism, all right. That's the agenda that they're going to keep feeding us. Now, I thought this section was interesting too because it talks about new libel law targets absolute scum in press, and legislation could supplant state laws. What state laws is the better question. Anyway, I thought it was interesting because what did this remind me of? The TPP. What? Censorship. Because libel means what? That they can publish anything that's untrue, which is what they do anyway. Just look at 9/11. And then what? To feed it onto the press to get rid of truth. And that is exactly what this is talking about. And it could also foreshadow the disgusting laws that your country is about to bring onto you. Like what? Disgusting things like legalizing disgusting things. You thought gay marriage was bad? It's only going to get worse from there. And honestly, this is just me, of course. I wouldn't be surprised if they start to legalize, say, child marriage and pet marriage and animal marriage, and you can have the right to marry yourself, and you can have the right to marry anything you want because of freedom of marriage, right? That's exactly what they're going to start doing and limiting truth to it and cause uproar. That is the goal. It's only a matter of time. Then we see here a picture of Chinese President Xi Jinping and his wife, and we see as they board an Air China plane. Now, why do they keep mentioning China? Very interesting and suspicious, and it talks about China, and it also talks about China here, where it talks about it's been long feared China could sink the U.S. economy, talking about economic collapse, which is what they're getting ready for. Is that why they have this graph here? Very interesting and suspicious indeed. Oh, but that's not all. It goes on. It goes to here to say, inside, NASA engineers halted the launch of an unmanned probe amid fears that its new gold leaf trim would interfere with radio communications. Interfering with radio communications, like an EMP that they're going to stage and hoax. Very interesting. Not only that, but what NASA, we know all of NASA is a lie and a hoax. All the pictures that they show you are all hoaxes. The satellites and the space stations are all hoaxes. It's one great big hoax, indeed. And then they also mention the Japanese emperor. But what's very interesting and suspicious, and I just did a video on this a couple of days ago, but it says here, heavy spring snow closed Trump National Park for the first time since it dropped its loser name, Yellowstone, in January. It dropped its loser name, Yellowstone, in January when I talked about what? How they're planning to blow up Yellowstone. And they're not even recording to you anything of what's going on or any activity in Yellowstone. So why would they mention Yellowstone here? Very interesting and suspicious indeed. And then it goes on to talk about Education Secretary Omarosa Manigault and summoned PBS officials to Capitol Hill to discuss remarking celebrity apprentice using hand puppets, and this a Trumping to remember with the so-called novel. Which Trump are they talking about? Because they're not talking about Donald Trump. I'll tell you which Trump they're talking about. They're talking about the Trump of judgment. But it doesn't stop there. The predictive programming and the mental psyop doesn't stop there, because as you can see from USA Today, and this came out the day before the previous opinion piece came out, it says Clinton campaign chairman, Americans can handle the truth about UFOs because your government is sure going to tell you the truth about UFOs, aren't they? And like, oh, okay, let's keep going. It says here, John Podesta, Hillary Clinton's campaign chairman, says it's time for the US government to release any evidence it has about the existence of alien life forms of life in outer space. Oh, cool, okay. But what they're not telling you is that, first of all, these aren't aliens at all. They're the fallen angels. Second of all, they're not telling you there is no outer space. They're hiding the firmament from you, which is why you can't go past Antarctica, which is why there are 50 nations blocking Antarctica right now, because they don't want you to know the truth that there is, in fact, a creator and that he does, in fact, exist. But they don't want you to know that, and they don't want you to know that the demons and the fallen angels are working with your government right now for what? The big alien deception closure, Project Bluebeam. If you have not watched my Project Bluebeam video, please do. But it goes on to say, Podesta, who was also chief of staff to Mr. Bill Clinton, told CNN, because they're so reliable, that if Hillary Clinton is elected, she'll ask for as many records about Area 51 in Nevada as the US government has to be declassified. It does? Huh. How about they tell you that they work with the demons and the fallen angels and that they're cloned for what? Reptilians. Oh, but they're not going to say that, will they? That information is always to be classified. I think that's a commitment that she intends to keep, and that I intend to hold her to, Podesta told CNN. Area 51 is a remote Air Force test and training range that's been the subject of conspiracy theories, including UFO sightings, because they always have to say conspiracy theories. Everything's a conspiracy, even what I'm telling you today. The US government could do a much better job in answering the quite legitimate questions that people have about what's going on with undefined aerial phenomena, said Podesta. That is the biggest hypocritical statement one could make, because he knows full well where they come from. He knows exactly what goes on. He knows that it's a big hoax, and he knows that they work with the demons and the fallen angels. They can't tell you that because they want you to keep thinking, oh, demons don't exist. They want you to keep thinking with an atheist mindset when they know better, because they're the ones working with them and working for them. But they don't want you to know that. Asked if the government is holding proof of alien life, Podesta said, that's for the public to judge once they've seen all the evidence that the US government has. All the evidence that the US government has? Oh my goodness. Oh, talk about an understatement. Asked about his own beliefs, Podesta simply said, there are a lot of planets out there, adding, the American people can handle the truth. Wow, that's far from the truth, because this is not true at all. There are no planets out there to begin with. They are lying to you. Yes, the earth is flat. Watch my other videos for more. It's a big mental psyop. I'm telling you, this goes much deeper than you think. Do not believe a word that your government tells you, because I'm here to tell you right now that it's a big mental psyop. Now, why would they even put all this out to begin with? Why would they make all these so-called predictions when we know better than that? Please seek Yahuwah and his true son Yahusha, because time is running out, and only through him can you find salvation, because Yah is salvation. Please, this is Truth Unveiled. Shalom.